Thank you, partners. Honorable members, I wish to inform the Plenary Assembly that we have received apologies from the Parliament of Madagascar, the Parliament of Mozambique and Parliament of Mauritius. When concerning debate, I remind members that the rule is to stick to 5 minutes of allocated time when given the floor to debate. Honorable members, for purposes of accurate verbatim recording, you are reminded to always introduce yourself by your name and country whenever you are given the floor to speak. I will now ask, are there any notices of motions? Thank you. I have a little difficulty reading that far, so please excuse me. I will just indicate the members who have raised their hands, and you will introduce yourself. Honorable member. Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. President, honorable members. My name is Ditapelo Kiorapetsi, MP from Botswana. Mr. President, I rise to give notice that today, Tuesday, the 4th July 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report on trade, industry, finance, and infrastructure on debt ceiling in SADC member states. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable member.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and good morning. My name is Ishmandaila Onani, and I'm rising on behalf of the Committee of the Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resources. Mr. President, I rise to give notice that on Wednesday, the 5th of July, 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resources on the situation of hunger and food insecurity in the SADC region, challenges fueling food insecurity, major international goals and African agenda, investments and performance of the Malabo commitments, and environment that can attract the youth to invest in the agriculture sector. I beg to move, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to come again, now in my capacity as the chair of the Model Laws Oversight Committee, or in other words, the chair of chairs. Mr. President, I rise to give notice that on Thursday, the 6th of July, 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Regional Parliament Model Laws Oversight Committee on progress
on Thursday, the 6th of July, 2023,
model law on
I shall move that the
using
53rd Plenary Assembly
to
do adopt
achieve
the report
inclusive governance
of the Regional
Parliament Model Laws
I rise
Oversight
to give
Committee
notice
on
that on Thursday, the 6th of July,
participation
2023,
model law on
I shall
election
move
people
that the
using
53rd
regulation. Mr. President, I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. I will call on the honorable member on the far right. Honorable member.
Good morning, everybody, all honorable members, Mr. President. My name is the Honorable Roger Bistoke from the National Assembly of Seychelles, and I have two motions, Mr. President. The first one is I rise to give notice that on Wednesday, the 5th July 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly to adopt a report on the Standing Committee on Human and Social Development and Special Programs on strengthening sexual reproductive health and rights in the context of climate change and emergency situation. I beg to move, Mr. President. The second one, Mr. President, I give notice that on Thursday, the 6th of July, 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly to adopt the report on the joint session of the Standing Committee on the Regional Women Parliamentary Caucus on accelerating the domestication and implementation of SADC model laws on child marriage and gender-based violence, good practices, challenges, and the way forward. I beg to move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. I have the next honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. My name is Honorable Regina Espawa, Chairperson of the Regional Women's Parliamentary Caucus. I rise to give notice that on Wednesday, 5th of July, 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Regional Women's Parliamentary Caucus on leveraging social media to advocate women's political participation in the SADC region. I beg to move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. I have the honorable member here on the near right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Shali Josefa Raymond, Member of Parliament from Tanzania.
Please continue with the honorable member.
I rise to give notice that on Wednesday, 5th July 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Standing Committee of Gender Equality, Women Advancement and Youth Development on the role of parliamentarians in promoting the gender and climate justice agenda in the SADC region. Mr. President, I beg to move.
Thank you. The honorable member from Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Dauti Ndiweni, Member of Parliament from Zimbabwe. Mr. President, I give notice that on Wednesday, the 5th of July 2023, I shall move that the Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Democratization, Governance and Human Rights, titled Towards a Right-Based Approach to the Conduct of Business within the natural resources sector in the SADC region. What parliamentarians can do. I beg to move, Mr. President.
Thank you, honorable member. The honorable member from Angola.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Pedro Sebastião. I'm a Member of Parliament of the National Assembly of Angola. I would like to notify that on Wednesday, the 5th of July, I will move for the adopts on the EXCO on matters, on administrative matters.
Thank you. honorable member. Do I have the honorable member from Eswatini and our treasurer?
Mr. President, my name is Mduduz Matsebula. I give notice that today, Tuesday, the 4th July 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt the report of the Executive Committee on Financial Matters of SADC Parliamentary Forum, the Treasurer's report. I beg to move.
Thank you, honorable member. The member on my left.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I beg to also give a second notice. Mr. President, I rise to give notice that on Thursday, the 6th July 2023, I shall move that the 53rd Plenary Assembly do adopt a report of the joint meeting of the Standing Committee on Food, Agriculture and Natural Resources, Standing Committee on Trade, Industry, Finance and Investment, Standing Committee on Human and Social Development and Special Programs, and Standing Committee on Democracy, Governance and Human Rights, on Parliament's role in legislating for strategic and sensitive assets, taking into account the security of the nation, whilst encouraging direct investment. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Do I have all the members who have to present motions? Thank you. With the presentation of the notices, we will now move to the first order of business for the day. I call on the Secretary General. Would you please read the first order for the day?
Presentation of country reports by speakers and heads of delegations on progress in relation to the implementation of the decisions of the 52nd Plenary Assembly session as contained in the verbatim record for the 52nd Plenary Assembly.
Thank you, Secretary General. Honorable members, I wish to invite heads of delegations to present their country reports in relation to the progress on the implementation of the decisions of the 52nd Plenary Assembly session as contained in the verbatim record for the last Plenary Assembly. Each delegation report will be allocated 15 minutes for both presentation and discussions. I shall open for debate when all countries have presented their reports in order to best use our time. Thank you. Before we proceed, I see a member from South Africa has raised a hand. I will give the floor to the member.
Mr. President, sorry for this to take you back, but there was just a small oversight in our presenting our motion, if you would please allow.
I will allow. Please proceed.
Okay. Mr. President, I beg to move that this plenary assembly to adopt the reports of the Executive Committee on SADC-PF Policy and Administrative Matters, which call for the policy consideration by the 53rd Plenary Assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, laid on the table of the 4th of July 2023.
Thank you, honorable member. Thank you, Secretary General. Honorable members, I wish to invite heads of Honorable member from South Africa, I will have to disallow your motion because the motion has to be presented by a speaker and not by a member. We will now proceed to the country reports, and I will call on the member head delegation in alphabetical order, and I remind you that we have 15 minutes in total for the report. I call on the head of delegation from Angola.
Senhor Presidente do Fórum
I will
Honorable Speaker of the SADC Parliamentary Forum,
Reports of the Executive
Madam
Committee on
Clerk
SADC-PF
of
Policy and
the
Administrative Matters,
SADC Parliamentary Forum,
which
speakers
call
of
for the
national
policy.
parliaments. It is for me an honor to submit the Angolan report on the implementation of the resolutions adopted by the 52nd Plenary Assembly session that took place in December 2022, urging the members to adopt various measures in order to strengthen the implementation of the objectives for integration in our region. The Angolan state continues to implement projects
to the fact that I'm getting French on Channel 1. So I don't know if other members are having this problem. If you would please. Channel 1, okay.
Can you get us now, Honorable Speaker?
Yes, very much. I'm apologize for the interruption. Honorable member from Angola, please proceed.
Honorable Speaker of the Parliamentary Forum, Honorable Speakers of the national parliaments, Madam Clerk, it is an honor for me to submit the report of Angola on the implementation of the resolutions adopted during the 52nd Plenary Assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum that took place in December 2022, urging member states to adopt various measures in order to strengthen the implementation of objectives for regional integration. The Angolan state continues to implement programs and projects with a view to harmonize progressively the political, economic, and social order of SADC countries within the framework of cooperation and regional integration. And Angola is implementing the decisions and recommendations by SADC in the following areas. And I'm going to outline some of the activities that Angola has undertaken within the framework of the recommendations of the 52nd Plenary Assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum as regards gender equality, promotion, advancement of women, and youth promotion. Angola is implementing a program for the protection of children and literacy and education of young people and adults, the local development and poverty eradication program, the program of transfers and remittances, and the advancement of women program, as well as eradication of child labor. The implementation of programs that I have just outlined have enabled us to put in place public tools in order to strengthen the protection of women and children in terms of access to justice and social assistance, and the promotion of activities that aim to enhance human capital, particularly for youth and girls. In terms of concrete outcomes, up to the first term of 2022, 365 protection networks were established and centers that cater for children. And whistleblowing system, SOS Child, had 256 whistleblowers on child abuse, though there have been some inadequacies. Child marriage is of great concern for the public institutions in Angola, and a set of activities are underway in order to eradicate this. As we know, the traditional marriage of minors is a crime, and those who perpetrate are punished up to 2 years imprisonment. And there was a presidential decree aimed at eradicating child labor in order to eradicate this problem, which is occurring in street hawkers, transport activities, and civil construction. We opened 51 health centers and employed 33,000 health professionals, of which 2,359 are doctors, medical doctors. First, healthcare and the equipment of the health center, the equipment for diagnostics and basic medicines against pandemics such as malaria, HIV, AIDS, and TB. At present, we have 149 vocational training centers, of which we're promoting. And this has increased the number of young people who have been trained in vocational training from up to 47,000. And we are implementing sensitization and capacity building activities, and to the end, and 32 women and youth in small business. And we established 45 startup projects and 2 groups for incubation of businesses. In terms of impact, these activities in the area of gender equality, we have improved participation of women in decision-making positions, both in political spheres and in public service. From 27th position in 2017 to 23rd position within the African ranking. As regards recommendations as pertains to performance in the agricultural sector in order to ensure nutrition and environmental sustainability, we are implementing programs to improve nutrition and commercial agriculture, animal husbandry, and